Welcome everyone to this episode of Insert Topic, and this week we're talking about mentorships, and I'm joined by three artists who are also part of the Dynasty Empire mentorship scheme we're doing. We'll go one by one and introduce ourselves so everyone listening on Spotify and SoundCloud and stuff know whose voice is who. So I'm the host, I'm Alex Beddoes. I run environment mentorships and career coaching mentorships.
I'm Jeremy Astrolato for Dynasty. I run environment mentorships, but just kind of more broad. Like if you want to talk about something, we'll just go into that. So yeah, it's kind of anything you want, really. I work at Massive Entertainment as a lead environment artist.
And I'm Ben Wilson. I'm doing the material art mentorship. I'm currently working at Ubisoft Stockholm.
I'm Rick Grieve. I'm the weapon artist at Dambuster Studios, and I do the weapon art mentorship.
So, guys, I appreciate you guys all coming on. This is it's been an exciting time. We're a couple of weeks in now. We launched. We got through the frantic bit, and just to settle a little bit. I'm glad we finally got this launched because I mean, all of us teach or spend our free time teaching people anyway, like bits and bobs. So to formalize this, it's been nice. I guess one thing I want to get into, I probably want to start with Rick on this one. You were doing bits and bobs of mentorships before, and I guess this is it's scaled up a little bit for you, and formalized it a little bit. How have you found it all, adjusting to this new setup?
It's very interesting to go from kind of knowing people that kind of are interested in weapon art and wanting to learn more about it to doing it to more people around, the Dynasty Empire and stuff like that. Like the first mentee I was a colleague of mine. And I just show him how to do weapons pretty much and how to approach it differently from, let's say, a normal prop. And it was really interesting to kind of like have to explain how my thought process is and how the thought process of a weapon artist is, and to bring that across has been difficult, but also great learning experience, I'd say.
Yeah, that's something I have found with actually Jeremy's probably the one to talk about this the most, but the amount you learn in trying to teach people, articulating ideas, especially you on stream, you having to do it on the fly all the time, but we have so much stuff as muscle memory or habitual where we don't really need to explain, but then when we talk to somebody who may not know, it's oh shit, I actually need to articulate this muscle memory and habits. I guess you've counted the most out of all of us, I imagine.
Yeah, it's why the analogies are so nice. And pointing at things that that they're going to understand that maybe doesn't relate to what they're trying to learn, but using the analogy it bridges that gap. So it's I mean, you see it on stream. It's a lot of analogies and then just stumbling around trying to find the light switch.
Well, especially recently with UE4, you're into
oh my god, dude. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in Unreal 4 for 3 years.
That
maybe
long?
More. It's been at least 3 years. And when I say not been in it, I mean, in those 3 years, I probably opened it for maybe 10 minutes in those 3 years. So now I'm going in completely fresh, which is kind of interesting to catch on stream, right? Because now you're seeing well, why is this here? I didn't even know you could do hotkeys in Unreal before. So now I'm just kind of learning things again, which is fun.
It captures I'll be honest, it captures the original thing. I remember when I first joined the Empire, it was watching somebody open up something up for the first time and how professional actually learns. Or okay, you as a lead environment artist with X amount of years experience, what are you looking for? What tools is it that a professional needs to find out and use? Was the insightful thing way back when? So it's cool to see. I'll be honest, it's quite funny watching it again. It's painful, the same things again.
Yeah.
Now, the odd one out here, I suppose, is you, Benny. You're new to this. You're new to the whole mentorship thing. I mean, Rick's done a bit of it. Jeremy's done a bit of it. I've done a bit of it. You're fresh, and you've spent a lot of time teaching. I know you spent a lot of time teaching me. What's it been like? I'm curious to hear your experiences the most, actually, because it's completely new for you, I guess.
Well, I suppose it hasn't actually been that different, or it hasn't been much different to what I expected it to be. in that regard. It's more or less kind of just general discussions I usually have with people anyway. And every person I've spoken to so far, it has just kind of been like a nice sort of general chat. It's been very relaxed. I was a little worried going in that it was going to be sort of very, student teacher, but it's totally nothing like that. Yeah, and it's totally nothing like that. And it's been really good so far. I was really worried that I wasn't going to kind of like know what to say or do, but it all just kind of fits into place as soon as you get into it, I find.
Yeah, them initial, like, I'd say 2 minutes, 3 minutes, while like it's always like, okay, like, hi, like,
yeah,
okay, what do you want?
The initial hi is a little tough.
Once you get talking though, like, I guess that this obviously the more experienced the person, the easier it is because you can find your footing a lot easier. But yeah, them initial few minutes could be a little bit rough when you're like, okay, what do you actually want from me? What is it you want to hear? What does it want to talk about? I guess this is an open question to all three of you. What has there been anything that's caught you off guard? Anything you're like, this is a bit more difficult than I expected, or I didn't expect this, or this has been a bit challenging? Has any three of you like faced any of that?
For me, it's notes. Like, especially like starting this back up again, is like I want to make sure that everything that I end up saying or that we end up discussing is somehow covered in notes, and that we can look back, or they can look back to that later. And so far, at least, so I'm doing the crash courses ones, which are only like, it's like an hour and then a 30-minute follow-up call, right? And those actually, we go into it planning quite early in text, like what they want to get out of it. And because of that, I think that hour actually feels more than long enough. We actually run into a point where there's like that extra maybe 10 minutes where we've kind of covered everything they wanted to cover, and then we'll just start doing some questions and back and forth. But making sure that what we cover is documented in some way so that they can go back to it, and just kind of keeping the conversation open until after the 30-minute follow-up call. But yeah, it's documentation for me. I get nervous about that stuff. I don't want stuff getting lost that they may have picked up on, or epiphany that gets lost because it wasn't documented.
I've been kind of to append onto that. I found that at the end of each call that I've done, just bringing up like a notepad with screen share and just kind of recapping everything that I need to do and everything that the mentee needs to do going forward. That's really helped for me.
Yeah, I've found with the first like few mentorships that I've done that I felt really unprepared in that way, that I didn't really think about that. And then, yeah, exactly, like writing it down and having everything like in a little backlog of what feedback I gave or something along those lines, to have that and go through it again and be like, all right, so we've covered this, and now it's up to you to, take this and learn from it and go on. So
one thing that's been a pleasant surprise that I find, and all three of you have done crash courses, I think, is how well they work. Like they were kind of an unknown entity. I was like, I've done small sessions with people in the past and helped them out, but I was like, I've not really ever done this crash coursing. I've done formal mentorships and I've done like other things, and I was quite surprised. I was like, you did a crash course, like you said, Jeremy, like it worked, because I think both parties come in like knowing it's just an hour, so it's like there's normally just one problem that needs to be tackled or one question needs to be tackled. So that's been quite a nice surprise. I didn't know how they were going to turn out, and I think they've turned out quite well, at least on my side anyway.
Yeah, crash course on Blender, like as a software, is quite interesting, because it's like, okay, well, what do they need to, like, essentially I end up asking them, what workflows do you want? Like, what workflows, or what are you trying to do inside of Blender? And then we go through those, and anything that I see that's like parallel to it, or something that I see that's off to the side, I just pull that into it, and they end up learning like a ton of random extra details that maybe they didn't know existed. Or I haven't ran into that yet where they're like, no, but I know that's the fear I have. Like, I'm going to show them everything, and then they're going to be like, yeah, but I know that already. Like, no. Is this it? I'm obsolete.
No, but in that situation, though, you can almost. I mean, when you meet somebody like that who's like, okay, I know all this. Yeah, I know it. Normally, by that point, I mean, you know, what it's like it's in studio when you have two people who know equal amounts of knowledge, you end up rubber ducking for them, don't you? It's like, okay, what are you trying to do? Okay, let's figure this out together. Like, it's you're not going to show them how to do it, but you'll give them something to bounce off so that they can eventually figure it out for themselves. That's the role you'll transition to in that situation, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, and then the other thing too is like, if they like, oh yeah, I do know about this specific like concept or principle or idea, and then you just pull their portfolio over and just show them like what you're looking at and where it's failing in those concepts, because maybe they understand the concept and they know it, but they're not applying it correctly yet. So then that's like for me, that's like the next layer of trying to make sure that what they think they know, they actually know. I don't know, man. It's like what you're saying. You just kind of ride through it and experience it together.
Yeah.
The crash courses have been a lot more successful than I first anticipated, for sure. And what I really like about them is if you do sort of run over that time, you can just pick up another course and it still works out a lot cheaper than the mentorship. So it kind of easily transitions into a rolling mentorship if you need it to.
That's how I'm doing one of mine. I've just basically treated it as, okay, there's more here that basically it's like, okay, I have more that I need to like ask. I'm like, cool, let's just keep rolling. Let's just keep going. It's like almost pay as you go. But just go back a sec though. You said that you anticipated. What was did you have some reservations going in?
Yeah, I did. I thought, because, you know, between the group of us, you know, we talk fairly often, and you obviously have the DiNusty Empire Discord and all of the other resources online. I thought that people would value the full mentorship a lot more than the crash course, because it is such a short time in comparison.
I thought.
Yeah, it's actually been the opposite.
Yeah, I found the same, where it's like I've got one hour call to cover so much that how am I gonna do this? But usually it's the people that get it. It's like, oh, I just want to see your opinion on this particular thing, and then you can go over that. And if they want to know more, they can just pick up another one or something like that.
It's actually there's something I'm glad we've. So one of the things I was thinking about when we were like, you know, picking out the people we're having on it to do this this mentorship, and having Rick, you're the curious one here because you're a weapons artist. I mean, traditionally we think of DiNusty as an environment art channel, even though we have all sorts of people in there: tech art, character artists, concept artists. We're majority, you would say, the vast majority of environment. Now, you fit in quite interesting. It's not, I know you're a weapon artist, but I mean, for me, like just my propping skills, and I know the guys will testament to this as well, who is in our like sort of circle. That even though you're a weapons artist, I think you've taught the majority of the environment of our group a lot of texturing skills of transitioning to props, and you kind of fit actually quite nicely in there.
Yeah, I'm basically just a texture artist that likes to do hard surface.
Does that bother you? Just out of curiosity, like just like purely just thinking artistically here, not ignoring the mentorships for a second. Does that ever like, no, I'm a weapons artist, or is it like, oh no, we see you as just a texture elite person. It just so happens that you lean into hard surface. Has that ever played on your mind?
I don't mind at all. I think it's a great thing. I wish there were, you know, maybe more weapon artists, but no, I would say like the things that I learned from like you guys as environment artists is comes back to me from a weapon art perspective, and then I can, you know, think about things differently, the same way that I can show other people about, okay, well, texturing, for like you mentioned, and it's really interesting to like bounce off each other because our jobs are so different, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I just see it as a nice thing, and never really thought about it as a.
If you want more weapons artists, man, just bring them.
Just go raid 3D Fast Track. They're all in there. They're hiding.
Just bring them. It's fine.
Yeah.
They are welcome.
I remember like joining the Empire so long ago now. It's been 4 years or 5 years. 4 years, I think.
Yeah, 4 sounds about right.
I think I was one of the only hard surface guys in there that wasn't doing either environments or materials. So it's
That's so
There was
funny,
a time when you could read every message that was on that Discord.
yeah.
man.
Yeah, and now seeing that whole place like grow, not just in terms of environment art, but all other specialties as well, character art, weapon art.
It's been interesting seeing the tech art side of things come through. Like I know, like people like Chris Radsby kind of are very vocal about that sort of stuff. They've gone from environment art to being more into the tech side of stuff. And then there's Andreas in there as well, who's very techie. Ben, you're the techiest material guy I know. Like there's a lot of these people about, and they having actually watching them discussions take place is very I guess humbling is what I could say, because you see them talking and you're like, oh, they're talking about problems I didn't even realize were problems. And that's the scary bit. So
Yeah, that's good, man.
but on that, like, what are the Empire? I mentioned obviously weapon art is not. You said yourself, Rick. There's not many in the Empire. What are the like disciplines do you guys think about as environment art, or like? Okay, I'm sorry, Rick. This might be alienating you a little bit, but as sort of like people in the environment field, we've mentioned that weapon art. There's a lot I've personally found very useful speaking to Rick and other weapon artists. And then there's like tech art, which, speaking to Ben and Chris and Andreas, picked up little tidbits. What other disciplines do you think, like, if we were brought in, we're more communicating more with? Because, we get into a bit of an echo chamber sometimes, and we only speak to environment artists or we only speak to material artists. What other disciplines do you think would, like, aid you the most in, like, in your particular fields of growth, if you could speak to them more often?
Alien
programmers.
Well, I don't know. It's like, we're... I know you're not alienated from the question, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm talking to I'm from an environment. It's for weapon art as well, I guess. What field would help you the most, I guess, or be more useful? You've mentioned environment art. Like, if you were speaking to other disciplines, would help your weapon art grow? And then same question to material art and environment art.
Any real specialty like can bring something to the table for anyone. I think.
Dude, lighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hold on. Okay, we're going to talk about lighting. No, we need to talk about something there. There's something that needs to be spoken about if we're going to talk about lighting. Did we see... I've gushed about this so much. I don't even care. Peter Tran's fucking environment. Have you guys seen that?
I don't think I have.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Benjamin, like, while we're talking, look at it.
Yeah, I'll get it for you.
Rock, my guy.
So this is like, for me, this is the strongest, one of the strongest environments this year. And funny enough, actually, the other strong environments have come from him as well. But
you're talking about this one, right?
The one we does like 5 absolutely killer light
the
scenarios.
Behemoth ruins.
This is really nice.
Dude.
So for anyone who's just listening, it's Peter Tran, UE4 environment, Behemoth ruins.
So what was your, actually, so that's how Jeremy says your first. Which one was your particular favorite?
Oh man,
I've discussed this at length today, so I have a
particular favorite. Okay, so
of the four,
so you have the top one that's kind of yellowish, and then you have the reddish, like sunsetting type of one, and then the lava after that. So I like the sunsetting looking one, and mainly it's because you get a sense of the scale, and compositionally all of the shapes are much more present. So in that specific shot, the composition is at its strongest, in my opinion. You lose a little bit from the first one where the rock is in the foreground, but you see the stuff that's more in the midground and then going back into the background. It's kind of between the first and second one when I look at them.
Oh, I think I see what you mean. Like the second one, it looks like it's, the first one's almost as if it could be a cave type thing, and the second one looks more grand.
Yeah, the only thing that's helping you understand the scale is the birds.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really smart, actually. I'd say my favorite one is between the lava one and the underwater one, purely because they're so unique.
Benjamin, this is your first time. Knee-jerk reaction.
I think my favorite's the first one, actually.
Okay.
Because I like the cat. The cat's cute. It is a cat, right?
Yeah. That's curious. Okay.
I didn't even see that before.
Damn it, Jeremy, pay attention to the details.
I think he has a cat in every environment.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Believe so.
No, I think seeing it in motion is different, though. Definitely look it up online.
Yeah, I just want if we're going to talk about lights tonight, I'm sorry, we have to talk about that right now. Cause, yeah, that was just something that I... Even though I was seeing the whips and I knew it was coming, I don't think I was ready. But yeah, lighting out. The thing is with lighting out, though, like, now I'm interacting with more and more lighting artists at work. I didn't understand just how technical a field it is.
It's very technical.
Yeah, and how much of there's a sinkhole of information that is not as easily accessible. Like material art, with respect, like you can find a lot of the learning resources online very quickly. Lighting art, like there's high level stuff like composition and like volumetric lights and all this sort of stuff. The nitty gritty details that actually make you a lighting artist found very difficult to find. Like, and I'm realizing how much of a knowledge gap there is there right now.
Lighting Academy is probably the best. No, what do you think, Rick?
Well, I guess from like an environment artist perspective, it's lighting art that would really bring a lot to the table in form of how to like uplift environments that you make. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's I've never really looked into lighting art unless I'm doing presentation, but it's usually like marmoset stuff.
Dude, we've already said you've got a profession. You have like a profession of you're a render artist. Like you know how to put you know how to put a good presentation together, like better than most of our prop artists I know. Like you help all the guys.
A lot of that's lighting, together. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, a lot of that is lighting, and same with materials, because like you can put a material on a ball, but it's the way the lighting reacts with the material as it goes around the sphere is like that's what sells it.
Yeah.
I still want to see the next thing for material balls. I want them to move. I want to see what the evolution of the mat ball is and what's next. We've had
ArtStation VR, dude.
Let's go next.
ArtStation VR, where people are putting their faces on their tables, like looking at the materials, you know.
I get images and it's terrifying, and I'm scared.
I did actually review a student's portfolio once, and it was a UE4 project where it was a playable map, and in the center was a sphere which you could hot swap with hotkeys of different materials. So you just sort of ran around.
Was it tessellated as well?
It was tessellated as well. Yeah.
Dude, that's sick.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like like how we have asset libraries in our engines when we're building levels. It was kind of like that, but for materials, you went in and you could functionally swap the material on. Okay, that's actually pretty curious.
It was really cool, really interesting.
Dude, that's nuts. Like, send them a CV, and it's just like a UE4 project, and they just sit and they play your CV, and they just play your CV portfolio. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. Okay, so I suppose we're talking about mentorships, so let's get back to mentorships. We're at an interesting point right now. I mean, a lot of different people do mentorships, and which is good. Like because one of the big things for me, like, is that mentorships is a lot more about the person you're talking to. For example, I remember when I was looking to get one a while ago, I was like, okay, who do I talk to? There's like Matthew Halloran, there's Chris Radspeed, there's you, Jeremy, at the time. And like, I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, even though like Jeremy's really experienced, he's like a friend, and maybe I need a more stern teacher. I know what I'm like, I'm very lazy, and I need someone like who's not my close friend to sort of give me a bollocking when I need it. Or maybe Chris Radspeed's probably the better person for this. So like the fact that there's more mentorships popping up is great because it means there's more people to choose from. What's like, I feel as if though the like evolution of mentorships and learning in general, because this is like mentorship is a cog within the learning machine. It's how we go from being amateurs or not in the industry to being in the industry, and it's not the only cog, and it's not a finished piece. It's still evolving and changing. Is there any ways we think that mentorships might change in the future or are changing that will see what we think is happening? Because right now we're in that golden period where like everyone's doing it and like, yay, this is great. Lots of mentorships and lots of people teaching. What's next? What do we think is going to be like the steps going forward?
You guys want to jump in on that one? I mean, you guys know what I want to say.
Well,
No?
I mean, the thing I was going to mention was what you want to talk about. So
Yeah, Rick,
Oh, that's not.
how are you? We just jump into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. I'm kind of thinking.
Let's go, Jerry. You
All right,
let's tee us off.
So, all I'm thinking about is your Instagram, like,
Two-time
game.
mini golf champion. I was so fucking proud.
Okay, Alex. Okay,
All right.
down. You weren't
Anyways,
good.
So that's all I'm visualizing when I'm like, let's tee off. All right. We're gonna go through the windmill. You ready? Right now we have schools that teach art, right? They teach game development, probably as a broader scheme. It's like game development. A lot of them now require like an internship, if not all of them. And I think that in that design, you could probably build in mentorships, because right now mentorships, me personally, I feel bad taking the money of a student who's already paying for school, when if there was a way to have the school just integrate the mentorship into the program, then it's like I'm just helping them along, helping the school along, just pushing information. That's kind of like where I think it's going, but who knows?
So just so I understand correctly, kind of like it's that you have a choice as a student. It's like, okay, you're at that period where you need some like practical experience. You either go find an internship, or you have the option of going on a 1 month or 2 month mentorship scheme with a person of your choice, one of our recognized or like approved mentors. That's what you're thinking.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
school.
It can also be in like tiers, right? Where it's like maybe halfway through the program, it's like, well, let's do a portfolio review. And it's not even about you getting picked for it. It's just part of the program,
right?
That you have like a handful of people that are in the industry just giving you the feedback that you need for your portfolio. And then later on, you have your more like specialized mentorships where you have a deck of artists that you can pick from, that you can sign up, and if you're able to get a spot, then you get a spot, and then you have your mentorship or your crash course, and then you have your internships afterwards. So it's still like the internships are still there,
right.
And maybe maybe the internship doesn't have to be there, and then in that case, then the school is covering like what, a 6 month or a year-long mentorship with like maybe multiple developers. I don't know. It's just, I think the idea of mentorships becoming part of the schooling system is something I see happening in the future.
I wonder if the mentors would then need to kind of like do teach training and get some kind of codification.
Yeah, it turns into a big ball of questions, right? It's the only reason it doesn't exist yet, is because there's a lot of qualifying things that need to occur.
But that doesn't happen with internships, right? Like you can have you don't need like when you do an internship, 'cause it's not like you're dealing with like secondary school children who are like, you know, between the ages of 13. You're dealing with like young adults. So in that case, I mean, internships, you can go an internship to a studio. The studio doesn't need to go through teacher training. Like they're just, okay, you're in a workplace now. Like that's it. But then again, I guess you don't have mentorships and covered under workplace acts, I guess. So I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's a curious point.
Well, an internship's also usually a studio, right? Yes. So their credit or their ability to say, hey, we're worth something, that's that education can get behind, is because they are a successful company. So like, I don't know how you would build in that stuff, but I see it happening. I just don't know when.
Okay.
Is it more of a see, or is it a hope of that happening?
It's an inevitability.
Now, on that, Rick, in
my opinion, at least.
Rick, you're the youngest guy out of us. You've been to university. I mean, I haven't been to university, so I have no comment on this. Could you imagine that? Like, you know, you're in your in your university experience, you know, instead of doing an internship, on top of the internship, okay, we're gonna plug in a mentorship, like 2 stages. One, which is early on for you to figure out, understand the industry a bit more from a professional's point of view, and like sort of work out where you want to go. And then another one later down the line, okay, I want to be a tech artist. I'm going to have a mentorship with a tech artist. Could you imagine that plugging into the university lifestyle?
Yeah, besides all the questions that come up around the whole realisticness of it, having that on top of an internship would be really, really good, I think, and very possible. Yeah.
I mean, it does make the whole. I mean, I've always been said that I feel like there's a gap in university education right now for game art anyway. This could potentially be that thing that plugs the gap. Like, okay, it sets you on your path, actually gives you a path, I guess. If you go through a mentorship, you're going to be kind of clear in your head of where you want to go. And then mentorships will probably be able to help outline that a lot better. And then the university is essentially giving you then the framework in order to grow. Like, they give you the time, they give you the resources. And that's the way it would go, I guess. Aside from, so that's like higher education, and that's like that side of things. Could you imagine? And this is I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been one of the guys. They were basically like they talked about the mentorship as a tune-up. They're industry artists, and they're like, hey, I want to learn this new skill. I'm just going to go speak to X person who is really experienced at that, and I'm going to get a tune-up. I'm just going to tool myself up for this particular skill set. And it's got me thinking. I was like, I can imagine like.
Oh, dude, definitely.
Well, coming out, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's that mindset. It's not, oh, this isn't for students. This is for everyone, like professionals.
I mean, most of my mentees have been industry professionals that mostly have been environment artists that wanted to learn more about weapon art. So, which for me has been really nice because I haven't had to teach people basics. I'd say it's mostly like already like building on top of already known knowledge, which has been really nice. And but mostly it's been already professionals that just wanted to learn about this one thing.
Yes, I think about taking Ricks just to be able to critique weapons when they drop into the freaking critiques channel, man. Or like I'm getting back into Unreal. I should just have Chris do a mentorship, pay him extra, and then just like stream it. That's something I would love to do.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's healthy mindset too, is what I like. That's the bit I'm really finding nice. Is like, there's none of this, oh, I can't do a mentorship because like that's what you'd expect. If you like think about this because artists treat a lot of things in a really weird way. We're weird about all sorts of different things. But mentorships has been a very reasonable approach from everybody. There's been none of this, oh, I can't do that because I'm a professional, so I shouldn't be doing this. Straight off the bat, it's been, oh no, I want to tool up. I want to talk to that professional who's really good. I don't care that he's like, I don't know
because it's not visible.
Oh, is that why you think?
I think it's because it's not visible. Because, like, I mean, if you could apply and everyone could see who's applying, and you see all the pros, like a pro tag, ArtStation pro tag, people are gonna get weirded out. Like they're, I don't want to. Like, it's because it's not visible.
You think? Okay.
That makes a big difference actually, because correct me if I'm wrong here, but that was a big problem at ArtStation, right? With the having the pro tag.
People are weird,
adding the light,
people are like, I can't. You hear this quite a lot. I can't buy pro because I'm not professional, so therefore I can't. And it's like this kind of this weird barrier eventually they give themselves because of it's a tag. But like this is one of them weird things. We as artists treat things odd, like, oh, it's just a subscription, that's all it is, to like some services. Oh no, I can't pay for that subscription because I'm not professional. It's like, fuck, that's ridiculous. Of course you can get it, like, it's just a tag. I'm glad that we've managed that mentorships has stayed in a quite a healthy place though. That's what's been quite interesting. Now, off the back of that though, we spoke about higher education. Could we imagine this ever creeping into studios? This is the interesting bit for me. Like, okay.
Oh, 100%. I'd see that even more than.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, even more so.
Sure.
Why? What makes you so sure?
Well, as a company, you want your artists to be at the top of their game, right? Mm-hmm. So to pay money for a mentor to come in and teach new fundamentals or new techniques, new skills. It's huge. It's going to be great for
retention as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've had quite a few workshops at my work, and they've been really good. And it's been actually a mix of both the internal artists giving the workshop as well as external artists that we've kind of contracted in. And yeah, it's amazing.
Huh.
I started recording stuff internally here and just sending it out. It's like an internal Empire VOD.
But yeah, internal or getting someone from outside the company could be, I can totally see that happening for sure.
I guess
that's even more approachable than the school part too.
But then you got the issue of, I guess, the guy coming into the studio, he cannot be an artist at somewhere else. Like you couldn't have an artist. What's two like random companies? Company A and Company B. Like an artist works at Company A and he's going to go to Company B and teach. You couldn't have that.
Studios. A
Sorry?
And B, I got you.
Well, I was like, I'll say that studios.
Yeah,
like, I don't want to name studios who, want to give people a trouble. But you get my point. Like, if you're an artist at Studio A, you
got competitors.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it gets weird, right?
I think it happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less so, but I think that you get artists from different companies coming in and giving workshops and mentorships. Yeah.
Do you think that's?
It does depend. It does. No. Of course, it all gets approved by the companies, but I think it is a little less common, simply because some studios are a little bit kind of touchy about that kind of subject. But most are very open and still would rather. The thing is that even though their employees would be sharing the knowledge, I think what most people won't necessarily realize is that you still want to hire and you still want to keep the person who is, providing the workshops because they're the ones on the bleeding edge.
Mm. Oh, okay.
So there's a reason they're going in these. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not really hiring for the expertise. You're hiring for the problem solvers.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And I guess then the studios which don't buy into that or like any form of like, okay, say for example, that becomes more and more the norm. Studios which are weird about it or make it difficult for people to do things, all you're going to do is burn relationships and sort of go, okay, fine, like you upset your staff or you make life difficult for your staff, fine, once this project's released and it's done, that's it, they're going to go because you've not nurtured or helped them grow, help them be the best artist they could be. That's basically how it goes. Like, I'm guessing that's how that goes, should I say, is this is where you'll go, and if you don't allow it and you don't let this thing happen, you're potentially going to lose your talent, right?
Yeah, I mean, as artists, the last thing we want is to stagnate. So
constant growth is good growth.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there we're talking about like the growth and the future of mentorships. Is there any pitfalls to mentorships? Is there anything like there's a route with it could go where it's like, okay, that's not really great or that's not so healthy? Because I think it's good to discuss the negatives as well, because then we're aware of them and we can make sure we're conscious of maybe not going down these negative routes. And I'm not really sure what these are yet. I haven't put too much thought into it, but I'm curious if you guys got any thoughts on this, like future routes of mentorships that are negative.
I guess as artists, we're artists first and teachers maybe second, third. So to get points across could be difficult. It could be difficult for mentees to understand the thought process if it's not explained well. And I guess that could be fixed over time. But especially with personally starting to do mentorships, I've struggled to get my point across, and I feel like that's a bit of a pitfall.
Okay.
I also think there's a lot of expectation and pressure on the mentee, because they're paying. It's not like going into school where there is a sort of responsibility on the school to educate. It's now more like the mentee is specifically selecting an individual. So what they put into the mentorship, I think, closely correlates to what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a risk, because if if they become so commonplace and people sort of just start picking them up, expecting them to be like a direct replacement for school, and they're not really putting much thought into what they want out of the mentorship, I think that could be, it would certainly be a tough mentorship.
You can get that in questions. Like I've had people message me asking me like what am I getting out of this mentorship? And that's when you clearly can tell that they're thinking about it from like a traditional educational standpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas like for me, what mine would be is more along the lines of what do you need? And like because I already have enough knowledge to be able to, I don't have it all, of course, none of us do, but I have the knowledge that maybe you're seeking, and you telling me what you're interested in learning about will tell me what to like, where to dig in my library of my brain.
So I have an idea I want to put to you guys, and it only really came to me. So my colleague Ana Rodriguez, she's on a podcast with A. Sanchez. It's a Spanish podcast, and at first I was like, so I went like this. I heard it. I was like, oh, Anna's on a podcast. I was like, oh shit, I can't listen to it. Oh, that's a shame. I really would like to listen to that.
Podcast is dope, though. I'm so glad that's happening.
I know, but it did make me think. Our whole industry is very westernized. All the mentorships available are English. And all the podcasts available up until this one, I was like, okay, I know of your experience points, ArtStation, Diversity Podcast, this one, Ross Baxter's. It's like, okay, these are all English speaking podcasts, and there are probably a lot of talent. And look, there's a lot of language barriers. Like, not everyone could be as bilingual as Rick. As Rick speaks better English, or Martin as well. Like, these guys speak better English than me, and I'm I'm English. It's and it gets me thinking. I'm like, okay, this resource is not normal. Like, I'm seeing this Spanish podcast. I'm like, oh, that's a breath of fresh air. And it's got me thinking about mentorships. Is that all of the ones I know are English? This is kind of a problem. Like, it's easy for me to be like, oh, I'm fine. Everyone's speaking English and that suits me. But the whole world is in English, and a lot of it. And I saw something the other day about like the way the average English-speaking person treats a bilingual person. When they're not understanding English, they think that they're an idiot, or they think they're not understanding, or they're not smart. And it's not the case. They're having to think in a different language, so it's a lot more difficult. And it has got me thinking, like, oh, that's not good for mentorships that they're so English. And this is something that maybe needs to be fixed down the road, or like hopefully they become more commonplace to have bilingual or like multi-language mentorships, and that becomes normal. That's something that's been on my mind recently. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I wonder if they're there.
Is that something that you as a like, because you're English, you're not gonna look for Spanish lecturers? Is that just because you don't know about it, or is there an actual lack of bilingual tutors?
I did think about that. I was like, oh, maybe it's because I'm English, so I just don't see them. But then I think, okay, I do keep an eye on the majority of the industry for the most part, the major studios, where people are, what people are doing. And I always think I would have heard about it by now if there was a prominent artist doing mentorships in, okay, this is not for English-speaking people. This is for Spanish people. Or this is for Russian-speaking people. I feel like I would have heard about it by now. That might be very arrogant of me to say, but that's my take on it. And the fact that I haven't, I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that is worth being aware of. You know, not everyone can speak really good English and have a back and forth with me, Jeremy, Ben, or Rick, and have a really solid hour conversation. That's just not possible for some people. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of the speaking on what Rick's saying, like when you go to YouTube, like you're seeing all of this English content. Every once in a while, like a Russian video will show up, or maybe a Chinese video, or the fact that it's that filtered, I don't know if there is or not.
A lot of the really good sort of technical substance designer tutorials are in French, because they're made by Vincent Goll.
Okay.
Which is really frustrating for me.
But it's funny, it's a glimpse though, isn't it? That language barrier is like, you go, oh shit, is this what the rest of the world is like when they're trying to okay, take all the major prominent studios that people dream to work at, Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, Infinity Ward. Majority of them are Western studios, English-speaking studios. You've got a few to Canadians which speak French, but it's still like, okay, that's 2 languages. It still feels like something that needs to mature, I guess, and be more. And this is the sort of thing I think of when I think of inclusivity. That's the side I think of. Not so it's the language barriers that actually block people from being able to participate, which I feel like is. It might not be an issue. It might be a case of that's just the majority of the industry is in the West, so that's why that is the case. Again, that might be an echo chamber like kind of thing where I'm like, oh, I'm just.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Nah.
Yeah.
I know nothing about people that don't speak English well, or struggling with finding resources, because personally I just don't know about it.
It's super interesting.
And it's a super hard problem to solve because we think about it like from an like purely economic point of view. It's like, okay, say like the majority of people in the games industry, and the games industry is highly focused in the West. It's like, okay, speaking English makes sense from a financial point of view because that's where the majority of the people are. But like, okay, we're gonna do one for Russian. How many mentorships would you actually get? Am I going to get one a year or like one every 6 months because there's just not as many? That's the other side. Like, it's a really weird problem. It only really came to me when I was thinking about Aya Sanchez's podcast. But
yeah, the fact that we're excited that podcast exists and we can't understand it, but we're excited about it, means there's something's going on there, right?
I did check YouTube the other day to see if there was like an auto English translate. Unfortunately, there wasn't.
So, because you could develop like subtitle software where like you can put the video through it, but you have to like kind of download the video, then put it through the software, and then get it back, and like.
I'm sure there has to be some Chrome extension that
has to
allows you to translate things automatically. I mean, YouTube does it automatically nowadays, doesn't it?
No, not automatically. You have.
I think you can generate it.
I don't think it translates to a different language though. Is that right?
For me, I think I can translate it to Dutch.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's a link to your account. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting.
I might be sucking this out of my thumb right now, but
you can check. You can check for me. You can check on this podcast later. Like, can you see Dutch subtitles for this?
I'll check right now.
But actually, why? So for me, I was excited about that podcast because A, I like Aya Sanchez, and B, Anna's my colleague, and I'm like really curious to hear about her. I know why Ben, you're excited. Because I know you know both of them very well. What was you just for you, Jeremy? Why were you excited about that podcast or that existed?
Just because I know that like not everyone speaks English, and the fact that now you have a podcast that supports a different language. And it's a big language as well, right? So it's just nice. It's nice to see that it's broadened. It's not just more podcasts. This is a very specialized. It's like a different set. So it's super cool. I'm glad you brought that up too, because like none of us would talk about it, right? Because it's not in our peripheral other than like that we know it exists. We don't listen to it and be able to understand what's going on either.
I guess it's because it's integrally tied to the exact same issue. Like the mentorships in the podcast, you could put in the same boat. It's learning. And it's just like kind of like, oh, this Spanish podcast opens up this learning type to non-English speaking Spanish people. Fantastic. Oh shit, that exact problem exists for mentorships. That's like it one-to-one goes across. So it's like, okay, well, this is a little bit more important. Like, okay, podcasts are not essential learning criteria. Like, you don't need them to get into the industry, just like you don't need mentorships. But I feel like a mentorship is far more powerful than a podcast. And then I'm like, okay, this problem applies to mentorships. Then it's far more important of a problem. It's a weird one.
Well, yeah, with podcasts, it's kind of questions bouncing around, and with mentorships, it's one person specifically asking questions and getting taught what they need to know.
Yeah, Alex's brain's just
No,
spinning.
it's you know what? I haven't really spoken about this. It came to mind yesterday or the day before when it got announced, and then I was thinking about like, yeah, this podcast and the problems with like mentorships go forward, and I was like, huh, yeah, I wanted to watch that podcast, didn't I? Can't do it. Oh, that sucks. And I went through that mindset of if I was a mentorship, and I'm like, oh, actually, that's really, really bad. Like, or that feels like that's a bad road. And yeah, that's where that came from. But I guess one thing, I suppose, we've got three very different types of artists here. We're approaching an hour, and what I want to finish up on is how to word this. As brief as you could summarize, what are you excited for? And the reason what are you excited for the future for your your mentorships, or like what your particular element you're teaching is, because I'm curious to see how it varies between an environment artist, a weapons artist, and a materials artist. So we're going to say more that we started with for introductions. Jeremy, what are you excited for the future of your mentorships or your field?
I mean, it's interesting because mentorships, it's all about learning, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe half the time it's someone that's trying to get into the industry and they're just trying to tighten up just the things that they're not aware of. Once those are tightened enough, then they can actually like head to space, essentially, right? They can get hired. And it's so like with that said, for me, I just want to be able to, it's like if I had more free time to do more mentorships, that would be my future. And then if I can do that, I can help more people. And then my gratification comes from seeing them getting into the industry in the spot that they were trying to go to. Mm-hmm. So just seeing them grow is like, it's like I'm just a watering can, man.
Yeah, I feel
just watering plants.
I kind of feel the same way, like seeing mentees grow in their art skills and seeing the teaching points come back in their portfolio work, or seeing them succeed is what I'm really looking forward to.
I think what I found and what I'm really looking forward to, I think, is a lot of the time most people, they like Substance Designer because they actually like visual programming. And they sort of think they like material art, but they don't actually. They just like Substance Designer. And I think I really enjoy... You're laughing, but it's true.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I really enjoy seeing someone who kind of then realizes that, I'm actually going to learn some programming. And this was with me, my way into Python, for example, was through Substance Designer. And if you look at like Chris as well, he's now kind of, very technical artist who's now like, actually I quite like programming. He's now jumping into it. And I don't know, I think that's really exciting. Seeing someone who really kind of sort of comes to understand what it is that they really enjoy, and then just kind of enjoying it, enjoying the process.
On that point, the whole like visual programming going into like actual programming, I thought I might have been on that trajectory for a while because I was like, I like materials, and I quite like shaders. This is interesting. And I tried Houdini, and then it's like, you actually need Python now. You actually need to know it. And I was like, I noped the fuck out of there. I was like, I don't want none of this. I was like, no. It turns out I'm just a pleb artist. I don't need none of that in my life. So that's why I was laughing, because it's like, I know the route you're going down, and I was like, I went down that route and then fucking ran all the way back again.
Yeah, but you also like, I just give me the node. I don't care how it's put together.
Yeah. True.
This is what me and Michael Kinsey literally argue about so much. Like, hey, like, I'm making this cool thing. Like, do you want to see it? I'm like, just give me the thing and I'll have a go with it. Like, I don't really... Cool, you made that. Very good job. Dude, that was a... I've had this argument with both Ben, with Michael, and a couple of colleagues at Counterplay. Like, this, I just don't... The tech stuff does not reach out to me. At least visual programming stays as visual programming. It never enters actual programming. But guys, we've been going on for nearly an hour. I'm glad you guys managed to come on. I know it was kind of short notice. And I think we've got some really interesting stuff. It's been nice to catch up with you guys, like since launching the mentorships. So yeah, I really appreciate you giving me your time, and hopefully everyone finds this as useful as I have.
That was good, dude.
Very nice.
Thanks for inviting
Very
me.
nice.
Very
but,
nice.
but in reality, I'm totally obsessed with Alex.
Cheers, mate.
Too much among us.
Dude, I'm actually Rick. I don't know what you're on about. We're probably gonna go play now. So everyone, remember to like, follow, share, subscribe, all of that sort of jazz. The more people that get to hear this podcast, the more people that can get helped. But I'm gonna wrap up. Catch you guys next week. You three. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Bye.